And now, from Shenango Valley Studios, coming to you live, one of the most talked about shows in the Shenango Valley, because it's the only show in the Shenango Valley. Your host, Sean Zipai with The Zip Code.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Zip Code. I'm your host, Sean Weston Zipai. Sean Zipai for short. We got a great show for you guys tonight. Thank you guys for tuning in. You know, we're riding this Penn State basketball train hard. Got another Penn State basketball alum and now coach and player development coach at that for the Philadelphia 76ers, Drew Jones III. Like I said, we got a great show for you guys. Let me talk to you guys really fast about the Lem Shoes giveaway. The Lem Shoes giveaway is done. Thank you to Andrew Rademacher, founder of Lem Shoes, for giving away those shoes. We will be announcing a winner in just a few short days. We're going to get on that, and we will announce it, so make sure you stay tuned. Follow us on YouTube, The Zip Code. You can follow us on Facebook. Thank you guys for following us here on The Zip Code. We'll bring Andrew in, and we'll bring Drew in, and we will get right to it. Let's bring Drew in here. Bringing Drew Jones in.
There we go.
There he is.
Sean, what up?
How are you, Drew?
I'm good. Can't complain, you know.
All right, man. So let me just tell you that there's a little bit of pressure here on the Zip Code because some of your teammates and some other Penn State basketball guys have been on the Zip Codes. I mean, there's a little bit of pressure.
I've heard.
And they did well. They did well. David Jackson did well. John Crispin did well. Joe Crispin did well, especially in the rapid fire round. Those guys seem to ace it. So we'll grade your performance after this, Drew.
Doesn't surprise me. They sharp dudes.
Yeah, they're sharp. They're sharp. So, folks, welcome to the Zip Code. We're here with Drew Jones III. And if you guys have any questions at any time during the show, go ahead and type it in the chat. We will try to get to it as best as we can. Thank you to Sheets. Sheets Run and Done. We appreciate the sponsorship for Sheets. And we'll get right to it, folks. Again, if any questions, go ahead and put in the chat. So, Drew, let's start with this.
What's up?
Born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
West Philly. You got
West Philly.
That's important.
Born and raised in West Philly.
Yeah.
And then you end up going to Penn State.
Uh-huh.
Why?
Well, you know, coming out of high school, I was a late bloomer, man. So I didn't have a ton of offers. I had some. You know, it kind of boiled down to LaSalle, Penn State, and Iowa. And essentially, man, I chose Penn State. Academically, athletically, Big Ten. You know, beautiful campus, still close to home, far enough away. So I kind of had the best of both worlds, man. It was a easy sell for Coach Dan Earl, who recruited me. So
you said LaSalle and you had Iowa. Did you actually visit LaSalle and Iowa as well?
Just LaSalle. Didn't visit Iowa. You know, it was at the time the coaching situation there. It wasn't as solidified as I like. The LaSalle staff was awesome. Still keep in touch with some of those guys. Ashley Howard actually recruited me. He's the head coach there now. But, you know, it was in North Philly. It was home. That would have been cool. But, you know, when you go from Atlantic 10 to Big Ten, you know, the quality of hoops, the ESPN games, the level of academics. Although I love that staff, Coach Anini, Ashley Howard, Pat, you know, Penn State, that was where I was supposed to be.
And we're going to dig in a lot more for Penn State in a little bit, but I just kind of want to go through your journey here, and then we'll backtrack a little bit and go through some details. So you go to Penn State, You have a great career, and then right after you graduate, did you immediately start playing over in Europe? And what was that transition like right away, or did you wait a year?
Yeah, so the transition was a interesting one. Coming out of graduation, I wasn't completely healthy, so I had to rehab my left knee quite a bit before heading over. Like literally, I felt like I was 100%, maybe 2 weeks out. So coming out was tough because I was hitting that hard. And your first year, you got to prove yourself. It's not about the country you're in; it's about the quality of work that you do. Um, so that was cool. I played overseas for 2 years. Unfortunately, I had a series of injuries that kind of swayed my career towards coaching. But coaching was on my mind regardless. Injuries kind of just accelerated it a little bit. But obviously, God put me where I'm supposed to be. So played 2 years overseas, beautiful experience. Injuries were unfortunate, but ultimately kind of led me to where I am now.
So let's talk a second about playing overseas. I don't know much about playing overseas, and I don't think a lot of people watching this, or a lot of people in general that like basketball, they don't know too much about playing over in Europe. They just know, oh yeah, he played over in Europe a couple years and now he's back, or whatever it is. What was it like playing over in Europe? What was the atmosphere like? What are the games like? I mean, is it a completely different game, different style? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, man, it depends on the country, right? So, over the years, when people speak of overseas basketball, it's kind of been more of a half court game, a little more slowed down, very technical. Not as athletic or fast paced, but very, very technical, X's and O based. Decision making has to be on point. But it also depends on the country that you're in. Like I played in Athens, Greece, and the pace was very slow, half court basketball, very methodical. But I also played in a country like Ukraine, which was very, very fast paced, up and down, quick tempo, quick hitters. So it kind of depends on where you are in the world. Basketball is everywhere, but at least from my perspective, where I've been, depending on the country, is kind of the basketball that you'll see.
What's the energy around basketball like in Ukraine and in Greece where you played? I mean, do people love the game? Or are they just completely? Does it take a backseat to soccer and other sports?
Oh yeah, it's definitely a backseat to soccer, but it's not. It's on a national level once you get to international basketball. Here we represent our hood, our city, our region, our area. You could have a Philadelphia, guy that's born and raised and be a Cowboys fan.
Sure.
But you won't have, somebody, from Ukraine that, is a huge fan of, maybe a Spanish club, So it's very, unlike here where it's more region city based. Over there, it's like, this is who I am. This is where I'm from. So, you kind of, you'll see flares. I've had people throwing anything from corns to acorns to coins to anything you name that people can get their hands on at some games, they throwing them at you. It's to the point where, some hockey games have the plastic O-ring, so yep. you can't play in the game without those. Between the flares, I've had acorns, coins. We lost a playoff game because they hit a referee in the head with a coin and he started to bleed. Lost a playoff game. My first year overseas, lost a playoff game. Called the game. Fans are on the court. Ref gets hit. That's it. Yeah,
so the games are a little bit like the soccer games. They're super rowdy.
Exactly. I mean, it's just obviously not as popular. You know what I'm saying? But you get the same quality of fandom. Minus the popularity of soccer.
So the fans are passionate, and you said the ref gets hit in the head, and what happens? The game just stops, or the game just keeps going, and the fans just go nuts?
Yeah, the referees came together. He's going like this, the ref goes like that. We go to the locker room, and that's it. So it was. I had never seen anything like that. The moment I saw a flare on the court, that's when I knew it was different over there.
Wow, that is absolutely crazy. So we might get back to that later in the show. But so you play in Europe for a little bit, and then you come back, and you are a graduate assistant at Penn State.
Yep.
And you spent how many years with Penn State as a graduate assistant?
A year. So I
a
spent
year.
Yep. Actually, Nick Colella was a GA there with me. He's currently on staff. So that was a great experience. That was a good year.
So then from there that's when you go to the Oklahoma City Blue, right from Penn State.
Right from Penn State. So little backstory. So, that segue between when I got back from overseas, knowing that I wanted to jump into coaching, I was interviewing with almost every Division II, Division I team up and down the East Coast. Sent all my information to every single Division I school in the country. Only got a handful back. Luckily, one of the ones that I did get back was from Shaka Smart. And at the time, if you remember, he was rolling down at VCU, and went down, interviewed with him. Ultimately chose Penn State, obviously, but we maintained a relationship. Lo and behold, a year after, me meeting him, speaking with him, building that relationship, I get a call from Sam Presti in OKC, the general manager. He goes, "Hey, is this Drew Jones?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "We're in the process of moving our G League team, or D League team at the time, from Tulsa to Oklahoma City. Would you be interested in being one of our assistant coaches?" And he goes, "By the way, you were referenced by Shaka Smart down at VCU." And that was kind of my first experience of genuine relationships. Do your best work, put your head down and grind. Good things will work out for you. So here's the guy that I turned down a job to, and because of the relationship and what he thought of me, he then refers me to an NBA club. So that was a cool little kind of segue between coming from overseas, having no experience in the NBA whatsoever, 1 year as a graduate assistant, and then literally just based on the person, forget basketball acumen, just the person that he knew that I was, he was confident to refer me to an NBA team. So that was, that was kind of my introduction to, high character, how you treat people. Professionalism will always get you in the door, if nothing else.
Folks, are here with Drew Jones on the Zip Code. Drew's the player development coach with the Philadelphia 76ers. Getting a little life advice as well here, folks, with Drew Jones. A little more than you bargained for tonight. Yeah, I mean, Drew, I completely agree. I mean, in life in general, it's like, if you want something, don't burn any bridges. Treat people well. Put your head down, exactly what you said. Grind, do your best job, do whatever task you're asked to do. Do your 100% best, and good things will eventually happen. You'll make connections, and people will speak on your behalf. So I completely agree with you. All right, so let's jump ahead. You take that job with Oklahoma City Blue, which is the D League at the time, now the G League. Let's talk a little bit about that position. So that was in OKC, or that was back in Tulsa?
That was in OKC. So that was literally, when I stepped foot in Oklahoma City, they were still handling all the logistics from bringing the team from Tulsa to OKC. So it was kind of cool to see the leadership and kind of development of what something looked like. How do you fully relocate a team? What does that leadership look like? How do you hire? What's expected from the individuals to make that happen? So, being a first year assistant coach, prior to even getting on the floor, I was able to see what leadership looked like, off the floor. And then, obviously you can take bits and pieces and kind of add it to who you are as a coach. So, but yeah, that first year I stepped foot in OKC. They were relocating from Tulsa, to the city. And, that was a great experience. First year coaching on the floor, developing players, opponent scouting, draft prep. So I was literally just kind of thrown in the fire. And that was probably one of the best things for me, just kind of doing so much so fast.
Now that G League season, is that pretty much spring and summer, or when is that season?
It starts after the NBA season. It ends sooner. It's only 50 games. I believe the first game, started in I want to say December, early December, and it ran until about I want to say around April, May. Much shorter season, only 50 games. Much different than what we see in the league.
So when you're on a staff just for the G League, are you also helping? Were you helping the Thunder as well, or is that just a completely separate staff?
For sure. And that's why you see so many NBA teams investing in their G League teams. They've started to realize that not only is it a developmental opportunity for players, but it's also a developmental and growth opportunity for coaches. So, and that was kind of a blessing with it being a shorter season. You're able to go through an entire training camp with the NBA team, take what you've learned, apply it to your G League training camp, use it throughout the season. Your season ends. Hopefully you finish with the championship. If you don't, you come back to your NBA club, again, sitting in meetings, helping on the floor, helping in draft workouts, scouting for draft prospects. So you're still, and again, not all NBA teams are that aligned, but most are.
And every single NBA team has a team in the G League, correct?
Yes.
Most of them.
Actually, don't quote me on that. I'm not sure if every single one. I know they were moving towards that. I would think so. I have to double check that, but I believe if not already, they will be.
Now, most of the NBA teams, their G League team, are they doing what OKC did and having them right in their city, or a lot of them, do they have a separate city?
Some of them have separate cities. Actually, most of them have separate cities. Oklahoma City was a bit of a pioneer, and obviously here in Philly, ours is in Delaware Bluecoats. But most teams have their G League affiliate in another location.
And so are those players interacting with the roster as well for the NBA, or are they pretty much separate?
Depends. Depends on what the roster looks like. If that NBA team has a two-way player that may or may not get as many reps or as much burn with the NBA club, they'll send them down and they'll play with the G League. But it just all depends on the roster construction, what the team looks like. Some NBA clubs have almost no players that they'd be willing to call up. Others have quite a few, and again, it's all based off of roster construction. Maybe injuries, you want to rest players, you need an extra body. So there's a lot that goes into kind of when and how a player is moved up or given an opportunity with the NBA squad.
And on these NBA teams, on average, how many coaches are on the coaching staff?
It varies. There's really no magic number. It all depends on that head coach, that organization, front office, what they feel like they need in order to be successful.
So are there specific things for certain coaches? I mean, so let's just look at a football squad. So you got the offensive coordinator, the defensive coordinator, special teams, all that. Do you guys each have a specific individual job, or is it like, hey, this guy's an assistant coach, he's an assistant coach?
So that's the cool thing about coaching is that your leader or your head coach, his or her philosophy dictates that. So depending on what that coach feels like he needs to be successful, that's what you'll see that staff be reflective of. So if there's a coach who needs a quote unquote defensive coordinator on that side of the ball, or an offensive coordinator, if that's what he needs or that he feels his team needs in order to be successful, then certain head coaches will say, okay, you're my offensive, you're my defensive. But it all depends on that head coach, his coaching philosophy, what he feels gives him the best chance to be successful.
Folks, you're watching The Zip Code with Drew Jones, the player development coach of the 76ers, also a Penn State alumni, which we love on this show, folks. So Drew, let's talk about this. You get the call to join the 76ers as a player development coach. How did that go down?
It was just, very, very similar to my start with the Thunder. I just got a call, and I got the opportunity to interview, kind of show, who I was, my philosophy as a coach, and who I was as a person. And then they say, hey, either you're a good fit or you're not. And thankfully, Elton saw me as a good fit with our organization, and so here I am in year 2.
Now, how does that work with the hire of, obviously, the Sixers have Doc Rivers now? How does that work? Does he bring in a lot of his coaching staff, so to speak, or is that just completely up to him as well, or does the GM dictate a lot of that?
Again, it's based on the organization. Obviously, the head coach is tasked with creating a culture and a team that has to go out and perform. So, he has the reign to build his own staff. That's not to say that, some teams may or may not retain certain staff members, but typically that head coach does build his own staff once he comes in.
So let's get to some of the ins and outs of your day-to-day job. Can you give us a little bit of a backlot tour on what your day-to-day job actually looks like on an average day?
You want off day, practice day, home game, away game, off season, preseason. Some more, man. This ain't a 9 to 5 where I can give you something super basic. Give me a scenario.
I got you. I'd say give it all to me, but Instagram cuts us off after an hour, man. So I'll be specific. All right, give me a practice day.
So practice day, let's say, just for sake of the example, let's say we've just come off of a back-to-back. So we've just played back-to-back games, fly home, rest day. Typically, when you practice, you can't burn the guys out. It's not college where you play once a week. You know what I mean? We're playing 3, games, a week, 4 games a week. So, you're really seeing tremendous amounts of work from these guys. So after coming off of a back-to-back, they'll come in, instead of getting on the floor, walking through plays or scripting an opponent's sets. Typically, you just come in, there'd be a ton of treatment going on. Guys are taking care of their bodies, and it'd be a very, very in-depth film session. So based on the opponent that we have coming up, guys will come in, get treatment, take care of their bodies, watch a ton of film, but not too much. You got to make sure guys are, they stay locked in. But, there's usually an in-depth film session that goes on. And then, for your heavy minute guys, they're kind of, may or may not get some shots up. But your low minute guys, or if your G League guys are around at all, those are typically the guys that are working. But for the guys that are carrying the load minute-wise, we have a staff that does an unbelievable job in kind of tracking their loads and how much they're playing. And so they do a good job of knowing when we can and cannot hit the floor hard.
So we've had a couple NFL guys on the show, and they kind of talk about during the week how they're basically just living at the training facility. I mean, they're super early, they leave super late. Mm-hmm. Same thing here in the NBA?
Of course, man. Coaches included. We're on the floor, teaching, coaching, drilling, in the mix. Going after with the guys. Their body is their biggest investment. So you would like to see a player invest that time, invest that energy, in making sure that they're at the optimal level of conditioning and strength so they can go out and perform. You don't want a guy that's not taking that seriously, because then obviously you're at risk of injury, et cetera. So, these guys at this level, they understand that, man. So the first thing they do when they have a day off before hitting the floor is they take care of their body, whether it's stretching, yoga, you name it. There's so much technology out there that these guys take advantage of now, man. It's like, it used to be just, hop in the cold tub and get on out there. But, nowadays I can't even tell you what these guys use to get ready. You got all types of boots and chambers, and it's like, that's why guys having these 30-year careers, man. It's unbelievable.
I listened to that Tom Brady interview on the Howard Stern show. This was back, I think, in the spring, maybe, when he was on there. And just the stuff that Brady does day in and day out is unbelievable. I mean, you might as well just have a guy follow you around at all times, basically handing you what you need to eat, telling you when you need to sleep, all this stuff. I mean, like you said, I mean, this is why guys are having such long careers, because the science behind everything now is just that. It is a science, and a lot of these guys are sticking to it. So, yeah, I think you're right. I mean, we were talking earlier, there's a reason why, LeBron James and Russell Wilson spend like $1.5 million a year on recovery stuff. I mean, that's their professional career right there.
Sure, that's probably the easiest out of all the investments that those guys make, right? That's probably the easiest one to get right, Yep.
So. No doubt. So we had a question just pop up. It said, "What coaches do you identify with the most as far as a coaching philosophy?"
Ooh, I've got a few of them, man. I think at at the high school level, my high school coach Steve Chadwin, he prior, like I said, I was a late bloomer, so obviously before even hitting the floor, the most important thing with him was who you were as a person, and you don't really understand what that looks like or how that feels when you're a kid, but that was probably the first thing that I've learned. So in terms of philosophy and coaching, you've got to be high character, and you've got to understand that who you are as a person will carry you much farther than anything that you can teach on a board. Prime example I think is Coach Rivers. Like, I'm in an opportunity now where I can learn from a guy that has, wherever he's been, he's built unbelievable cultures. And whether it was Orlando, they counted him out based on the squad that they had. He goes and wins Coach of the Year. Boston, his ability to build relationships, manage talent and egos, and go win a championship. I was a witness firsthand, being out west in OKC with those LA teams, and kind of the culture and the camaraderie that those guys built, and they won a ton of games. So, for me, the coach that I identified with the most at the high school level was probably my high school coach, Steve Chadwin. At the NBA level, obviously, Doc, just what he's been able to do and accomplish over his years in the league. And, in college, there's such a lot. There's so many coaches in college, man. I read The Pyramid of Success from John Wooden. His approach, man, was unreal as a coach. His commitment to habits and detail was unreal. So, John Wooden was one of them. Calipari, man. Calipari. I mean, you talk about a guy that is unafraid, right? So I know he's a polarizing figure, but say what you want, but the guy was not afraid to put his players first. You know what I mean? Like, in college, the head coaches, you're the GM, you're the head coach, you're all these hats, and you a lot of times wield a ton of power and respect. But he was willing to give that to, willing to say, you know what, it's not about me, it's about my players. And people can whine about the one and dones and the talent, but the reality is, when you put your players first, regardless of level of talent, skill, like, you're gonna get the best out of them. You know what I'm saying? So, I have different coaches that I take kind of bits and pieces from, philosophically, whether it's my head coach and with character, college coaches with, John Wooden, habits and detail, putting your players first with Calipari, or, the importance of culture and accountability with Doc Rivers.
A lot of great points there, folks. We're on the Zip Code with Drew Jones, player development coach with the Philadelphia 76ers. Drew, let me ask you this. When you were at OKC, does Russell Westbrook get a bad rap?
Maybe for the people outside of the building, yeah. I mean, why didn't he? He terrorizes defenses. Like, if I wasn't on his team, I would, you know what I mean? If I got a guy coming at me like that, I ain't gonna like you either. But he's probably one of the he's one of the most polarizing figures that people have an opinion on. That I think it would surprise people how nice of a person he is. It really would. When you see his antics on the floor, and when you see his aggressive nature and his demanding um, mentality and the force that he plays with, it's easy for people on the outside looking in to think he's this animal. But when you're in the trenches with him, he will take the shirt off his back for you. He's one of my favorites, man.
Yeah, and in the bubble this year when he was hurt for a little bit, just watching him on the sidelines there, he's in street clothes and he's just going nuts on the sideline for his team. And I was kind of watching that and I was like, you know what? You got to love that about a guy that just is obsessed with his teammates, loves his team and which wants to win that bad.
Yeah.
And when I watched that in the bubble, I kind of had a found respect for Russ and was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. We were in quick story on Russ. We were at Denver and it was a nail biter. I don't remember if it was an overtime game or not, but it was the game where he had his first triple double title, and he needed I think he needed a 3 in order to get his triple. I forget what. No, he needed an assist, and I think Samaj Christian, one of our G League players in OKC at the time, hit the shot, and we win the game, which is obviously most important. And he comes in, the first thing he does is dap all his teammates. So it wasn't, look at me, triple double king. It was, I wouldn't have been without y'all. You know what I mean? And that's the kind of stuff that people don't necessarily get to see is the person behind the animal. You know what I mean? The animal is what you see in order to compete at a high level, but the person is what drives the animal, and that's what people don't really get to see. So he appreciated all his teammates, all his coaches. Unbelievable dude, man. Unbelievable dude.
Were you in the bubble this year?
I was not. Our staff was limited with the bubble. You can only take so many, so development staff weren't able to go.
Gotcha. All right, we're gonna get to the rapid fire round in just a few short minutes, but I want to hop back to Penn State, and I want to talk to you just about that coaching vacancy at the moment. What do you know exactly what goes into that coaching decision for Penn State? Is it just basically? I mean, do they have a team that they assemble for it, or is it strictly Sandy Barber as the athletic director? She gets to pick, or how does that work? Do you know?
I have no idea. I have no idea how that works. Other than Sandy calling the shots. I think that's that. I've never been in any of those meetings, or I'm not sure how they had it set up. I wish I did know that. That'd be another night out, just trying to, in terms of leadership and how to seek out talent but I have no idea, man.
Well, Drew, selfishly, I told this to John last week. I said, selfishly, I need Joe Crispin. The show needs Joe Crispin to get that job. And I want the zip code to be able to report that first. So selfishly, I need that information, man.
Joe was when you look at him and you have a conversation with him and he's smiling at you, like, man, really nice guy. And then you get him on the court, when you start dropping them bombs, you're like, man, you ain't as nice as I thought you were. You know what I mean? Like, I remember being a at Penn State, he'd come back and hoop with us. I mean, bombs. Him and Taylor going bomb for bomb. It was unreal. And at the time, the guy was like, what, 30, 38? Like, I don't know how old he is now, but he had to be in his upper 30s, early 40s. And I mean, flying off of DHOs, pick and rolls. Really good guy, man. Family dude, loves the game. But that stroke ain't leaving no time soon. He can still shoot that rock.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. When he was on the show, he was talking to us just about his little stint with the Lakers, then the Suns, and he said, if he played in today's NBA, where guys are just chucking threes from wherever, he said his career would be completely different.
For a guy that size, he knew how to get a shot off, and that's you know, as important as any skill in the league. Can you get a shot off? You know, because with the length on the floor defensively, at the rim on the perimeter, like that's key. You know, you could be the best ball handler in the world. If you can't get a shot off, who cares? You know what I mean? So he was something else. He could let it fly.
Yeah, and on the show, he said that stint in the NBA that he had, he said shooting a 3-point shot or getting a 3-point shot off in the NBA was one of the easiest things, he said, at the time that he ever did, because they didn't guard the three at the time. So that's why he said, he's like, if I played in today's NBA, he said, I'd still be playing.
All right. Yeah, they putting that emphasis on it now, though.
Yeah, they are.
From now.
Yeah, they are. Folks, here at Drew Jones on the Zip Code. We're going to get to the rapid fire round. So, Drew, I got to tell you that there's guys that have come before you that have done a decent job at the rapid fire round. I'm going to shoot about 20 questions at you. And I do want to say, I do give Joe a little bit of a hard time. Joe Crispin thought that this wasn't the rapid fire. He thought this was the slow fire round where he kind of was methodical about each question. I'm going to ask you some questions, and I just need you to give me whatever is at the top of Drew Jones's head. All right?
Do it.
All right, here we go. Folks, Drew Jones on the Zip Code rapid fire round. If you could go back to one moment in your playing career, what would it be?
Had to be, I believe it was sophomore year at Michigan State.
Best college basketball atmosphere.
Michigan State.
If I give you 100 free throws right now, how many would you hit?
79.
Fruits or vegetables?
Fruits.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
One sport you're bad at.
Golf.
Favorite vacation spot?
I live on the road.
Nowhere. Loudest moment of your playing career?
At Olympiacos, Athens, Greece.
Gym clothes or a tailored suit?
Tailored suit.
Favorite sports movie?
Blue Chips.
Last time you had fast food?
3-4 days ago, my kids.
what was it, Drew?
Nuggets and fries, McDonald's. They love it.
That's what I'm talking about. Childhood hero?
Man. Carolyn Reed, my mother.
Book or a movie?
Book.
One interesting fact people don't know about Drew Jones?
This is embarrassing. But they're comfortable, though. My wife, Julie, bought me a pair of Crocs, and I love them. So what?
The Croc life, man. The Croc life. Let's see here. Morning or night?
Morning.
When you're not coaching basketball, you're probably doing what?
Hugging my kids.
Last time you signed an autograph?
Ooh. Overseas. So this was what, 12 years? Been a while. Yeah, Penn State, maybe 12 years. Been a while.
Breakfast, lunch, or dinner?
Dinner.
If you had one extra hour in the day, what would you spend it doing?
With my family at home. You don't see a lot of it in this profession.
And the last and maybe the most important question I'm going to ask you all night, Drew, is where will the zip code be in 5 years?
I don't know, man. Hopefully still interviewing me. A lot of fun. I don't know. It remains to be seen. Whatever's the premier social media platform at the time, zip code to be at the top of it.
And with that, Drew Jones has made it out and survived the rapid fire round. Hey, I mean, that wasn't that difficult, was it?
No, not at all. Not at all.
So, so you're bad at golf?
Come on, man. What you gonna bring that up for? I wouldn't say at it. It's just not at the top of my list things that I'm proficient at. I'll go that far.
I got you. But do you enjoy it?
I do enjoy it. I do enjoy it. Because you're pretty much battling yourself. So
That's true. I'm gonna give you a little tip, and I don't know how much you actually want to excel at golf, but there's a guy named Mike Bender. He's like top 3 golf coaches in the world. He's down in Florida. If you ever want to get good at golf, for $300 an hour, I know it's expensive, but for $300 an hour, you can get some lessons from him. And a bunch of guys are taking advantage of it now. It's unbelievable. If you want to get better at golf, Drew, you go see him.
hey, he better be teaching me a lot more than golf at $300 an hour.
Does Penn State basketball still have that golf scramble?
It's my wife, huh?
What'd you say?
No, I said he better be teaching everybody in their family for that.
Does Penn State basketball still have that annual golf scramble?
I don't know. I know they would have the coaches versus cancer tournament every summer. I don't know if that's what you're referring to.
I thought that there was just that may have been a fundraiser that Penn State basketball participated in.
I believe so. I mean, it's always hard for me to get out there with, usually, I'm traveling to see players, draft, what have you, summer league, so it's always hard to get out there.
Yeah. So let's go to the best atmosphere here. So I believe Joe Crispin said Dayton. They played I think they played at Dayton when he was playing. He said that atmosphere was unbelievable. And then John last week, he said at Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
And so you said
Michigan State.
Michigan State. That is an unbelievable atmosphere there, Michigan State.
Yeah.
Did you play at Penn State whenever they played at a few games at Rec Hall?
No. I was a GA for one of the games, but we never, for my entire time at Penn State, we had been trying to get a Rec Hall game, couldn't get it done. But it was unreal, man. That's a different atmosphere, like a completely different atmosphere. I mean, fans are on top of you. Basketball gym reminds me of the Palestra a lot, to be honest. Just kind of small, tight, history. You could just feel the hoops, when you walk in, So that was a different experience. I would have enjoyed it.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if Penn State will play more games at Rec Hall, but I think that it is a huge it's a huge atmosphere builder for the student section and just the feel for the students that come to the game. I think they should do that more often. I mean, if you think about it, I don't know what Rec Hall can seat, but I think for Duke, I think they only have maybe like 8,500 capacity there. So if you think about it, I doubt that Rec Hall would be much more, but I just don't know if Penn State would want to play more games or just due to ticket sales. I mean, I don't know, but I'd be all for it.
It's just a different atmosphere, man. Even as, a guy that's played in those type of environments, being the away team, like even as an opponent, when you walk into an environment like that, I mean, right away before the ball is even tipped off, you're like, okay, yeah, it's going to be a rumble tonight. You know what I mean? You can feel it. You know what I mean? Whereas the Bryce Jordan Center is very open. It's an NBA arena. You know what I mean? If you ain't got however much a whole 20,000, 17,000 fans or whatever, it's a much, much different atmosphere, So I would like to see, more games played there just because of the feel, atmosphere, the energy. It's a very, very different type of energy in there.
So, I mean, if Cameron Indoor, so let's call it Rec Hall, let's just call it 6,500 fans. If Cameron Indoor can do it every single home game, you got to think that Penn State can at least do it for a few games. I mean, you got arguably the best college football atmosphere at Penn State. You're
Hmm.
telling me that we can't have at least a few more games with the best college basketball atmosphere at Rec Hall?
You absolutely can. You absolutely can. You just gotta find a way to make it work. I'm not sure what all that entails, but if that's something that we truly value and we feel as though can give us a competitive advantage, then we got to seek that out. We got to seek that out. We got to make that happen. I agree.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously, I graduated from Penn State in 2014. I've been to a bunch of basketball games, and I mean, last year especially, they were selling out, and you guys had big crowds, especially your senior year and whatnot. But it's like I think, especially for a college basketball atmosphere, I think there's got to be something special about the atmosphere, and I don't know that the Bryce Jordan Center has that feel at all. I mean, like you said, it's an NBA arena.
And don't get it twisted. At the time, Nittany Nation did hold it down. We had some big time games at the Bryce Jordan Center, and Nittany Nation turned out for us. But we had who we beat. We beat Michigan State on that. Indiana, Illinois. On that floor, they were ranked. We had some huge games. I remember our NIT run. I believe it was Rhode Island. That game was nuts. Absolute George Mason, en route to going to the Garden. Like the BJC turned out. So, but obviously we were playing for a national championship, the national invitational tournament. So, we got a little more during those games than we did in the regular season of Big Ten season. But it's potential there. You just got to win, like anything. You know what I mean? Put the best product out there, the fans will come.
You're right about that. Were you on that team that beat Wisconsin at home when Wisconsin was ranked?
No. And why you bring that up, man? I don't think I ever beat Wisconsin. That's the one team I don't think we've beat. My teams never beat Wisconsin. We beat every other team. Never beat Wisconsin. I was on the team as a GA when DJ Newbell went crazy at Wisconsin. And that was like the first time that we had won at Wisconsin. And I don't know. Oh no, was it Wisconsin? No, that was Ohio State. But yeah, I never beat Wisconsin, man. Never beat Wisconsin. And at the time, Bo Ryan, those guys, they were unreal, man. They were. It was like a machine. We knew everything. We knew the in and swing offense. Like I dream about that Bo Ryan swing offense. We knew exactly what was coming, and it was so hard to stop.
Folks, I think we just lost Drew Jones. Got about 10 minutes left. Drew comes back on. We will ask him a few more questions about Penn State basketball, especially. But obviously, Drew played for Penn State, originally from Philadelphia, now coaching in his hometown as the player development coach for the 76ers, which is pretty crazy. You get a great job going back home. That's got to be pretty special for him. But played over in Europe for a few years. There, Drew's going to join us again.
You back on?
Can you hear? Yeah, can you hear me, Drew?
Yeah. Where
Right.
we talk?
No worries at all. Yeah, we're just talking about Wisconsin's team back in the day, and yeah,
Next question.
yeah, absolutely. The only reason why I asked you if you played in that Wisconsin game at home whenever we beat them when they were ranked was because I was in the student section with my brother. My one buddy is actually a Wisconsin fan, so he sat in the student section with us, and it was at the very end of the game. It was like 15 seconds left, and I'm not sure who was shooting free throws at the time, but he yelled from the Penn State student section, "Miss it." I think it may have been It may have been Tim Frazier, but the whole entire student section turned around and just started cussing him out, man. And he deserved it too. He was in the Penn State student section. He should have kept his mouth shut. Luckily, I think it was Tim. Luckily, he made the free throw, and Penn State won one anyways. But man, that was.
He had a birthday, man. I just talked to him a couple days ago.
Is he still playing? Is he still playing?
He is still playing. He's dude's an animal. He's been working out like crazy. He's still trying to figure it out. Don't think he's on a roster yet, but once kind of things start rolling and rosters start shaking out, I think he'll get picked up.
Awesome. Good to hear. Good to hear. So let's before we wrap things up here, let's talk a little bit about just the Penn State basketball culture. So I mean, obviously, your team was one of the few to make it into March Madness. I mean, obviously this past team this year, they could have had a nice little run there. And then you got Crispin's team back in the early 2000s do it as well. But
Yep.
let's take a snapshot of your team, this team this year, and then even Crispin's team back then. So let's take those three teams. What do you think is different about those three teams? And you can speak on behalf of your team as well. What do you think is different about those teams that kind of helps Penn State be a perennial contender in the future, and maybe even looking at something of a coach, within the next year? What do you think was special about that we can continually get that at Penn State and build that culture?
I think it's your identity. Who you are as a team. At the college level, not. Obviously at the pro level, you got to have talent, and obviously you got to have an unbelievable culture and environment. You all got to be breathing the same air. But in college, you're fighting for something a little bit more. You're fighting for, as they say, the name on the front of your jersey and not the name on the back. You know what I mean? So there's, one thing that I, and just kind of being a part of our team and knowing the history of when Joe played and kind of watching how they performed this year, like all three of those teams had an identity, man. And you can tell it was something other than themselves. You know what I mean? And when you play with that level of intensity and passion, you bound to do great things, irregardless of talent, And I think that's what you saw out of those three teams, man, is that you saw a team that was together. You saw a team that was resilient. You saw a team that played for something bigger than themselves, And I think that regardless of what era of Penn State hoops that you see, I think in terms of identity, I think that's one of the things that Penn State community, regardless of who you are or where you come from, that's going to be a part of how you play. And it's kind of cool seeing that. Obviously I wasn't around when Joe played, but just those guys always coming back, and then just kind of knowing your history, being a part of our teams, and then trying to keep up with what's going on now. That's definitely one thing that I think each team kind of had and possessed in terms of how they played.
Do you think there's any special sauce that the next coach has to have in order to recruit some of those guys from Philly? Because man, we've had, especially on last year's team, there's some sick talent that we've had from Philly from the last 3 or 4 years. And I truly believe you got to be able to dive into that eastern part of the state, man. I'm over here on the western part of the state. There's some talent, don't get me wrong, but the eastern side of the state, man, there's some nice talent on that side of the state.
You can't settle. You know what I mean? Have a vision of what you want, and if there's an area of the country, PA, Philly, that has what you want, that can fit your vision, go recruit it. If there's whether it's character, athleticism, IQ, length, like it's here. And so it's just a matter of whether that coach values the type of player that Philly brings. You know, where we can be somewhat rough around the edges, but one thing that we're not is soft, reluctant, not passionate. You know, so I think if a lot of those qualities resonate with a coach, if that's something that they feel can help you win, you know, don't settle. You know what I mean? Yeah, well, I only recruit this region. You know, I don't know what that means. You recruit talent. You recruit the person. You recruit the character. And if that helps you win, go get it. You know.
So we had a stat check here, Drew, before we got about 5 minutes up. We had a stat check. January 29th, 2011. Home against Wisconsin. You guys won 56-52.
Ooh.
So you, my friend, have beat Wisconsin.
You know what I was thinking of? I was thinking of at Ohio State. That's what I've never won at Ohio State.
Gotcha.
But I was when the wheels were turning. That's what I was trying to figure out. I've never went Ohio State. Yeah.
Well, hey,
Yeah.
thank God for the producer. You know, he gave me some numbers here. And,
What-
I mean, hey, this is
What were they ranked that year? Were they ranked that year?
they were ranked 17th when you beat them.
Who else did we beat that was ranked that year? Michigan State. Who else? It was somebody else.
Michigan State, Wisconsin, and Illinois.
Illinois. Okay. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you beat three.
Ohio-
You beat 3 teams.
Ohio State is what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well,
Ohio-
listen. I mean, I think maybe you can sleep better tonight. You know, you mean you beat Wisconsin. Hey, Drew, we got 3 minutes. I want to end with this, man. First of all, congrats on landing a gig with the 76ers. That's got to be a little bit surreal for you working in your hometown, man.
Easily. An unbelievable feeling. Excited to get rolling. We got an unbelievable head coach. You know, so I'm just ready to work. You know, ready to go work and ready to go win.
Last question we had, so it just popped up. It said, "Would you ever go back to college ball to coach?"
Well, obviously, I love this level, the talent, you know, the wisdom that you get every day from these guys that have coached for 10, 20, 30 years in this league. But there's something special about college, man. You know, that environment, that community, that family atmosphere that you kind of maybe yearn for when you're in back-to-backs and you're traveling the country, and you're not just coming back to a home base. And kind of grinding it out for a week before your next opponent. I do miss that. And I don't rule it out, but I'll tell you what, man, this league is special. This league is special, man, with the amount of talent, the quality of people that's in it, front office, coaching, medical is literally the highest quality of hoops in the world. So, would I go back to college? Maybe. But right now I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Hey, man, I think that gets back to the original point that we talked to very early on in the show. It's like, hey, you work hard wherever you're at, and wherever the Lord takes you, he takes you. You just never know. But when you're at spot, you're meant to be there, and you work hard, and you do your job, and you just enjoy the journey.
Absolutely, man. I was able to. I'll end with this. I was able to speak with Dan Hughes, who's was the head coach of Seattle Storm in WNBA. And he dropped a nugget on me a few days ago. He said the attainment or the success that you see or that you aspire to get to is right in front of you. It's in the moment. So, and that's what I live by. You know what I mean? Everything that I aspire to be, everything that I hope to do in this league is a byproduct of what I do in this moment. You know what I mean? I'm gonna be the best where I'm at, and that's kind of how I live my life, how I've grown in this league throughout my 6-7 years in it, and that's how I'm gonna continue to grow and get better. So, be the best of where I'm at. I'm gonna serve our organization, our coaches. And that's typically been my philosophy in terms of, along this journey in coaching, man.
Amen to that. Folks, we're going to wrap it up. That is Drew Jones, the third player development coach with the Philadelphia 76ers and basketball legend for Penn State basketball. We're going to call it that. Thanks for tuning into the Zip Code, guys. Thank you, Sheets. We hope you guys will tune in soon. And, Drew, thanks for being a friend of the show, man. Best of luck to the 76ers, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sean, love the show, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right, we'll catch you later. I love you, Shenango Valley, and we'll talk to you soon, Drew.
All right.